Hello and welcome to Monocle on Culture. I'm Robert Bound. On today's show, we're raising a toast to a pair of unmistakably London-tastic cultural landmarks. One, an annual art fair, the other a behemoth of a public institution, but both of which are celebrating notable birthdays this year. Yes, Tate Modern turns 25. The huge power station turned modern and contemporary mega gallery and an institution widely considered to have changed the public's attitude to art and the frequency with which they went to see it. We'll speak with the director. Photo London celebrates a decade of showing the best of British and global photography within the labyrinthine beauty of London's Somerset House. Launching anything commercial, even in such a mercantile city, is always a bit of a gamble. However, we'll hear how it's panned out and what's next. That is all to come on this arty party of a culture show right here on Monocle on Culture on Monocle Radio. Photo London was but a gleam in the eye of Michael Benson and Fariba Farshad, partners in cultural consultancy and in life, who felt there was room for a photography-specific modern and contemporary fair in a London that, of course, already hosted frieze and other more specific selling and collecting jamborees. Naturally, they were told it wouldn't work, but due to judgment, the city's vibrancy, a bit of luck, and brilliant dealers presenting excellent work, it did, and has been plying its well-curated, inspiring and stylish trade for 10 very good years in the auspicious surroundings of the Thameside Somerset House. Who better to tell us how it unfolded than one half of that founding duo, Michael Benson, joined today by the fair's new director, Sophie Parker, who'll tell us what's now and what's new. The lowdown then on Photo London's decade of success.
I think we're actually still trying to encapsulate the madness and creativity of London. It's something that people have been trying to do for centuries, and to say we'd managed to do it in 10 years is possibly a little bit ambitious. What we were thinking of when we started was actually bucking the trend. People had said to us, yeah, it's a good idea, but a number of the dealers in London said there's no market here. You should think about doing something else. But actually, what was nice after we've met you, I think, is we get the support of Maya Hoffman's Luma Foundation and Jan Daly at the Financial Times, who really encouraged us to get on with it. And so we ignored the naysayers and did get on with it. And the first thing I remember doing was going around the States. I went to New York and various other cities in the States to try and persuade them that Photo London was a good idea. London didn't have much of a tradition of buying and collecting photography at the time. We were beginning to see some moves in the museums, but there was no fair in London. The reaction in the States was extraordinary. People were very, very enthusiastic. So we came back and we knew we had a plan. Having said that, it took us almost 2 years to put the plan into action. I remember standing at Somerset House on the opening morning, a bit like you do when you have a party at home, wondering whether anyone was actually going to turn up. And all of a sudden, there was this great horde of people who'd been on the Eurostar, the French photography community, descended en masse. And things just went on from there. And the first fair had 70 galleries. We didn't have a pavilion in the middle. It was very small, but incredibly successful. Most people sold very well. We felt we were onto something. Indeed, one of the grumpy dealers I was speaking to said to me, you pulled a rabbit out of a hat. We didn't know there was a hat and certainly had no idea there was a rabbit inside. So that was kind of encouraging for us as we got started.
It's an amazing thing, and it's interesting to sort of lean into some of that sort of American optimism for art fairs generally and the collecting culture and photography, I guess, as well. Sophie, I'd love to bring you in. I mean, as an incoming director of Photo London, what you've got to play with, what chocolates you've got in the chocolate box, and kind of what you want to introduce this year and going forward.
Well, I've been at Photo London since 2018. That was our 4th edition of the fair, and worked as gallery development manager and then an associate director, and now this will be my first year as director. And I think over that time I've worked closely with the galleries, I've heard the response from the galleries, so we've managed to sort of slowly make those tweaks and changes to get Photo London to where it is today. And I think to come in and sort of be wanting to sort of make huge changes to the fair isn't actually where we're at. We have a great foundation, and it's just about always sort of responding to what our galleries want and creating a fair that works best for them and have them feeling supported. New things that we're bringing in for this edition is our book market, which is going to run from the Friday to the Sunday, and that's our way of sort of highlighting the importance of the photography book and really hoping to support those independent publishers, people that create zines, people that are much more working on short-run editions of books. So that's going to be really exciting for the weekend. And then we've also seen an expanded positions section this year, which was one small booth in Discovery last year that we had the idea for, and that was a place to support unrepresented artists. We saw the response that those artists had and the benefits of them getting to experience a commercial art fair, working alongside art dealers, working alongside photography galleries, and mixing with the audience that attend those fairs. And so this year we decided that we would actually expand that, and with the incredible support of Maria Sukar, who's done an incredible job of curating this show, and we've now given over one large part of our Discovery section to it, and it's going to feel like a very, very special part of our emerging gallery section. 9 artists in there, each supported by a collector of their own. So can't wait for everybody to see it.
And in terms of collectors, Michael, and I'll bring this back to you. This is obviously the meat and potatoes of an art fair, is keeping your galleries close, attracting a public, but also vitally enthusing collectors and international collectors if possible. Now, it sounds like that first fair was you kind of knocked it out the park there. So tell me a little bit about how you keep those collectors close, if that's not to give us the recipe for your secret sauce.
There's no shortcut to success. You have to, what we do every year is we have a series of international collector events designed to enthuse those collectors who've been to the fair, but also encourage them to sort of reach out to their friends and fellow collectors.
And Sophie, you've obviously very close relationships with the galleries, as you said in your previous work with the fair. And in terms of curating the booths and in terms of single presentations by galleries and then a bit more of a varied approach that certain galleries take, what kind of balance do you now as director, and having worked very closely with galleries throughout, want them to strike?
We tend to want to encourage our exhibitors to either do solo presentations, dual presentations, or highly curated booths. So we want everybody to sort of feel like they're going into a space and experiencing a mini exhibition that you might get at that gallery's space outside of the fair. There's always opportunities to ask galleries if they want to see sort of more of the artists that they work with and get to know their roster. But I think when you're we've got 131 galleries, exhibitors participating in the fair. And so the best way to sort of stand out quite often can actually be to take what can feel like a bit of a risk and dedicate your booth to a solo presentation by an artist or a very clear curatorial theme. And it's those booths that tend to sort of stick in people's memory. We do like to ensure that there is a wide variety of photography at Photo London. We want examples of the very earliest forms of photography, vintage works, documentary, and then incredibly contemporary works, and those works that sort of make people wonder, is it even a photograph? We have sculpture that's far beyond framed works on a wall. So we do have conversations with our galleries. We do try and curate each section of the fair to have an overall feeling. So if you're particularly interested in one sort of photography, you know where you need to go in Photo London to seek that out first before you go and experience the rest of the fair.
And we sort of alluded to London as obviously a huge cultural hub, as a big messy city, and you're leaning into this, Sophie, in 2 ways this year with London Lives, or is it London Lives, which is sort of photo presentations and new work from David Bailey, Nadav Kander, Heather Ajapong, and artists such as that, as well as having London as a master of photography, which you always have each year. So tell us about, I mean, obviously it's a decade of the fair and everything like that, but how are you seeing London celebrated, or how are we going to see London celebrated at the fair this year?
Well, you'll certainly see it in our London Lives, London Lives show. We've got work ranging from the 1960s all the way through until work that was created a matter of weeks ago for the exhibition. So we're really going to get an incredible overview of a variety of different artists' perspectives on London and their experiences here over the years.
Photography is no more ubiquitous for very obvious reasons that it's on everyone. There's a brilliant camera on everyone's phone. I wonder how you see Photo London and sort of high-end photography, artistic photography and documentary photography, how you see it, and if you see it that it's changed perhaps in the last 10 years. You know, when you are selling you are helping dealers sell brilliant works in a beautiful setting, and it's all about meeting up, being sociable and collecting wonderful works of art, or simply just discovering something new. But I wonder how you see the position of photography.
The reason we started Photo London is we sensed this huge energy in the city, both in terms of artists and young gallerists. And the answer to the question of what's the future of photography is we don't know. What we know is that there is a massive amount of people, young people, artists who are working, experimenting with new forms, and that's been the kind of the sort of DNA of Photo London, if you like. This whole business to experiment, to try new things, to innovate, and we see that again and again and again. And we don't know, but they certainly do. And I was talking to someone who judged our Emerging Student Award this year, and she said to me, the work that these people are making, these young people are making, is off the scale. So I'd urge people to come and discover that for themselves. And also, just to echo one of the other things that people say to me quite often when I'm doing these ridiculous tours to encourage people to come, is they say to me, if you want to see the future of photography, you need to come to Photo London.
That was Michael Benson and Sophie Parker from Photo London, which runs at Somerset House this month from the 15th to the 18th of May. Tate Modern is 25 years old this year. Now, we're going to employ the stupid I word here because the Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art really did become very quickly iconic as an important institution for often misunderstood art, an icon of regeneration through art, architecture, urban planning and ambition, and an icon of the London skyline, a silhouette ever interchangeable with the art and ideas held within. It has also been a huge success, more than once being the most visited attraction in Britain. Now, no one is saying it was easy, but Tate Modern seeds were sown on quite fertile ground. There was a vital international art boom led by big-figure auction results and increasingly for modern works by the likes of Warhol and Rothko. There was a money boom that resulted in collecting contemporary art, Koons, Murakami, Bourgeois, and importantly for Britain, Damien Hirst, Tracey Emin and Sarah Lucas. Artists were famous, part of mainstream pop culture. The still fresh New Labour government had failed with the Millennium Dome, but Tate Modern celebrated an actual thing, art and ideas, and so the new museum became synonymous. Modern Britain, Tate Modern. All housed in a gigantic brick building that was once a dirty power station, but is now, well, a dirty great museum. How times sort of change. Who better to talk about Tate Modern's place, meaning and future than Karin Hinspel, the museum's director. Karin, thank you very much for seeing us in your incredibly quiet office here at Tate Modern, while all the industry of celebrating 25 years happens not outside of here exactly, but it's happening in the galleries outside. I wonder, you've been director since 2023, what your perception of this place was before joining it.
I think for me, Tate Modern has always been like a majestic space for celebrating art and artists, really, and then incredibly public. So for me, it's always been a role model of how to transforming millions of people into art lovers, really.
Yeah, it's sort of done that amazingly well. It's been, often been the most visited, quote unquote, tourist attraction in the UK, right? So it draws in art lovers, it draws in art aficionados, visiting curators, collectors, all sorts of different people from all over the world. But importantly, Joe Public as well. I mean,
Yes.
it's quite a unique place it holds, certainly in the UK in that regard, right?
Yes, it's amazing, and I love to seeing children running around here. Maybe I think even some babies have been taking their first steps here at Tate Modern.
Pushy art parents.
Yeah, but also, on a Friday afternoon, a bunch of grumpy teenagers coming in just to get a break from, I don't know, friends or family or school and just sit quietly and relax. I really do love that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously nothing like this existed beforehand. It seems like a fait accompli, doesn't it, now, that this place would have been built, or this old power station might have been developed 25 years ago under the auspices of looking at modern and contemporary art. If you cast your mind back 25 years, Karin, how do you feel? Obviously, you can't put yourself in an entirely British perspective, but how do you feel the world looked at contemporary and modern art back then? And whether or not this institution was pushing against an open door or not?
Certainly not an open door, I would say. I think it's very hard to imagine London without Tate Modern and without that position that London has now when it comes to modern and contemporary art, for example. But obviously Tate Modern transformed London quite physically as well. Just look at the South Bank now and look at pictures for 25 years ago. You obviously know that, as you know London very well. But also back in the days, or before 2000, there was actually quite a significant number of big shows on modern art, for example, that if they were shown in Europe, they would only be shown in Paris. And that's certainly not the case anymore. London has become a global art capital, I would say also, and also for modern and contemporary art.
And it feels, yeah, exactly that. It's kind of unthinkable. I mean, it feels like there's obviously a bit of a power struggle going on between those two cities at the moment in terms of the commercial world and maybe the institutional world as well. That's for another day.
I call it friendly competition.
Friendly competition, okay.
Makes us both better.
Well, we are in the art world. Everything's caring and sharing here. Well, it seems like there's a bit of a tussle going on again between those two noble art cities, London and Paris. But maybe that's a point for another day. But it was all about the commercial art world, I suppose, before Tate Modern existed. This has put it's allowed different people to be part of that art world. Is that fair to say?
I think it's more than fair to say. I like to call Tate Modern for being profoundly public. I think this is one of the most public spaces in the world in general, and especially within art. If you think of the entrance from the Turbine Hall, there's literally a ramp taking you down so you can run in the space. I don't know, I cannot think of that many museums around the world that has that.
And actually, in terms of physical spaces, we'll come on to some of the birthday celebrations and things like that. But actually, as director, there are a few people with a unique position to enjoy this space. But you yourself, there are a lot of pressures, a lot of work to be done as director. Yeah. When you need to take a bit of time out to be able to stay here late, come in early, what are the spaces within this institution that you actually like to walk around and look at certain works?
There's so many. I love the tanks. I think they're just so unique. We have an absolutely amazing exhibition with Giacometti in one of the tanks right now, where it's illuminated from below, so it kind of casts these incredible shadows within that raw space. I think that space is absolutely amazing. Just one example there. There are so many. But what I do like to do the most, if I need to kind of take a breather or take a moment, that is that I will go down to the Turbine Hall 10 minutes before we open the doors. And there's complete quiet. There's no one there because everyone is being briefed and doing their thing at that time. And then all the staff will come. And then the doors will open. There's always a queue outside. And you have to have visitors like streaming in. I love that. It's like that. I do that. If I'm having a hard week, I do that. And then I think this is why we do it.
Well, it's super interesting you picked up on that, or that kind of informs why you love this place as well, Karin, because a lot of people, whether they know a lot about the works on the walls or not, come here. There is something cathedral-like about this space that kind of encourages communality, doesn't it? That it is often used as a meeting space for people, for families, for dates, for all sorts of things that is kind of either below or above, but not necessarily completely about the art. As director, that's kind of a success, but also possibly gives you a bit of an ambivalent feeling about it. I don't know.
I think we are very welcoming and public and accessible cathedral, if you use that parallel. But I do think, yes, it's about the space and it's about the people. But I actually do think what Tate Modern has done the best, it's a celebration of art and artists. So that is at the very core of what we do. It's about celebrating artists. And that is also something that I noticed when I was working abroad. I haven't lived all my life in the UK. I'm fairly new. But that's something that was really noticeable and inspiring.
And to come on to the birthday celebrations vibe, and this is, I think, something that's happening from this coming weekend for the rest of the year, or at least into a portion of this year, 25 kind of your seminal works that are you're encouraging people to go on an art trail in, out and around the institution. I think the first work picked was Louise Bourgeois' Maman. Tell us about some of the, I mean, that's obviously been an iconic work for you here, taking up huge presence in the Turbine Hall with some others. Tell us some of the greatest hits of those 25 works, what you might push people to see. And I know people hate asking, going, well, I can't pick 3 because I love them all, but if you had to.
I don't think I need to push people. I think the works draw them in by themselves. So one of my favorites is definitely Matisse's The Snail, this amazing cut-up piece. It's huge. And it's so stunning and vibrant. The colors, it's very majestic, I think. And I do love Silvia Morelli's Babel, Tower of Babel, made of all these radios that creates this noise and sounds. We should celebrate the radio media today, shouldn't we? So,
why not?
So that's an absolutely iconic piece. I think that is like one of the new icons, also created by Tate Modern. And obviously, Maman, for me, is really, really crucial. I think the whole history, the whole history of Maman and Tate Modern, they are intertwined, they are embedded. It was here in 2000 when we opened. It was here looming when she did her commission. Louise Bourgeois did her commission. And now we brought it back to celebrate the 25th anniversary.
And I guess it's also the Turbine Hall and the whole place is a space that encourages people to do something a bit like they've done before, but take it into a different realm. I mean, I'm talking about concerts here. I've seen Kraftwerk here, amazing things that have people. You can see people suddenly fit in bands that have something to do with the space, you think, or something to do with the attitude of contemporary art, etc., doing something that's quite different in this space. So there is something about this space that makes people think differently. I mean, is that, in your history and institutions, is that a unique thing for Tate Modern, or is it just the qualities of this building that make people do what they do?
The space certainly is unique. The Turbine Hall is gigantic, and we produce new commission.
It's a bit of a no-pressure space. Right? It's a bit big.
Crazy.
It's a bit big.
It's crazy to take on that space every year. And also, it's amazing, but it's certainly also challenging to work within that kind of dimensions and scale in general. But nevertheless, the artists, then, when they take it on and succeed, is absolutely transformative. If you think of Olafur Eliasson's The Weather Project with the sun, there were it was such a transformative exhibition, I think. It was this immersive work with a gigantic space creating this like kind of meditative or vibe. People were lying down. Nowadays, yes, you think that is an art project and that is amazing. But back then there was no such thing. It was completely new and radical, I think, both as an artwork, but also for the experience. Yeah,
that was something that I think, I know people that it changed people's idea of what an art show could be, what a museum could be, right?
It certainly did.
Yeah.
And then I think you keep referring to this publicness of Tate Modern. I think it's also important that there's also been a live program, actually from the very beginning. I think maybe it was introduced as early as 2003, and then certainly it was enhanced in 16 with the opening of the Blavatnik building and the tanks. But I think this kind of participatory element is at the core of what we do at Tate Modern. So it's not just about art and people, it's also about engaging and connecting the two. And that, I think, is quite unique in the way that Tate Modern has done. And I think some of these more performative elements that Tate Modern has produced over years has been an equally part, really, of the success in connecting, really, art and people.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's very difficult for big institutions, especially when they're in big buildings like this, none bigger than this perhaps, to feel that they're looking you in the eye as a person that knows a little bit about it or as a person that knows lots about it or nothing. And there's a way of holding people's hands that's a bit patronising. Tate seemed to do it in a different way. I mean, as I say, coming fairly recently from the outside, was that a quality that you noticed before, or is that something you've helped to imbue, or are you just having the baton passed to you from former directors?
I think it's definitely a quality that I also noticed from abroad. I think Tate is truly welcoming. It's not just visitors, it's friends.
She said it beautifully. Let's come to the small matter of the birthday weekender, which this sounds like a festival where there's going to be DJs and all sorts of stuff that's other than the art. Maybe you can tell us a little bit and that's this coming weekend, I believe, which is the actual firework display and blowing out of the candles, which will be starting
on Friday.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about what that involves.
That is what we do best. I think that's really the living museum at the very core. So it's free. It's open to all. Anybody can just come. You can come see our shows. You don't need a ticket. You don't need to book anything in advance. You can just take a stroll and you can stop by, see some displays if you want, and head on. Or you can stay for the entire day and you can experience performances. There's going to be DJs. There's going to be talks. Our staff will be doing 10 minutes talks about all kinds of subjects that we come up with ourselves just because it's fun. We'll be open until 10 p.m. on the Friday and the Saturday. We're going to have an amazing installation in the Turbine Hall with Measuring the Universe, where we can all, like, if you want to measure your height, as we do with our children, everybody can come in so we can see the scale of our guests and visitors.
Bring some chalk.
And friends.
Okay.
Yes, bring some chalk. We'll have that ready for you. There's going to be a free exhibition as well. We're just opening a new one for this purpose, which is called A Year in Art 2050, because it's also about the future, looking 25 years ahead, and that is celebrating artworks within our collection that kind of, predicts the future or looks at the future, or these kind of forward thinking.
So you're going to be personally on the decks, presumably.
I will.
Director
So will
Hinsball.
we all.
Okay,
to welcome you all.
This makes me think of hedonism, and that brings me back to 25 years ago and the launch of Tate Modern. It felt like the art world was a place where, artists were on the front page of newspapers, and there was not necessarily a movement, but there was a lot of people who poured into the same art world, I suppose, and sold works for a lot of money. That seemed to be a lot of what it was about. Plus, they were kind of amusingly badly behaved at times. The art world seems to have changed quite a lot since then, and institutions like Tate Modern lent into that a little bit maybe when it launched, and now have a different song to sing, perhaps. Is that fair to say? And I wonder how you see that the 25 years of the institutional art world and maybe the commercial art world, which are not as far away as people sometimes think, what that landscape looks like to you.
I think first and foremost, also going forward, we will always be here to celebrate art and artists. That is what we do. It needs to be the most important thing we do. And then secondly, it's about the people, our friends visiting. So those two things, I think they are still very, very central, very important, and that they will also be so in the future.
And finally, I just wondered, in terms of the job of a director in the 21st century, there's a lot of juggling, and you're in the middle of a lot of seesaws and la 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 la. We can use all these misplaced analogies, I'm sure. But there are curators, there are directors of acquisitions, people that look after funding and all the rest of it. Is there a typical day for you, Karin? I wonder what is in your inbox on a Monday morning, kind of thing.
The beauty of having a job like this is that you can never predict what will happen during a day. It's a very unpredictable job. You never know what kind of things will arise. If it's suddenly like an artist want to bring in a live animal and that all these kind of regulation you need to look at one day and you need to look after HR processes the next day because there's a wild performance and we need to make sure that all our staff comfortable with that, or suddenly you will turn a corner and there's a new work on display that you have forgotten all about and suddenly it's just there. So it's very unpredictable, I would say, and amazing. And I think Tate also have got the best people. So I think I've got the best colleagues in the world.
And that was Karin Hinsbo, director of Tate Modern. Happy birthday, big guy. And of course to you, Photo London. My thanks then to Karin Hinsbo, Michael Benson and Sophie Parker. Monocle on Culture is produced by Sophie Monaghan-Coombs and Steph Chungu, and Steph also edits the show. We'll be back next week with more, but for now, from me, Robert Bounds, thank you for tuning in.